All right, so here comes the answer. Now we know that we can tap into whatever value the user typed into here after that / by tapping into request.params. The name of that parameter, which is post name, right? So let's go ahead and instead of console logging it, let's save that into a variable. Now let's say something like var requested title is equal to request.params.postname. The next thing we need to do is we need to compare this requested title against all the titles that we have inside our posts array, right? So we know that posts is an array that contains a bunch of post objects. So each object has two key value pairs, a title and a content. And the title inside this object is what we need to tap into. But because we only have access to this posts array, in order to access each individual post, we have to loop through the array. Fortunately, we already know how to do that, and how to do that quite easily. We can use our trusty for each method in order to loop through each of the posts inside the posts array. So if you remember, the syntax was we specify the thing that we wanted to loop through, which is our posts array with an S at the end. This is the plural form. And then we call for each on that array. And then we open up a set of parentheses and we put in an anonymous function. Inside the parameters of the function, we specify the singular form of our array object. So that, in this case, is a single post, right, without the S. And now we open up a set of curly brackets, and inside here, we now have access to each and individual post inside our post array. That means that we can store this other variable, which is called stored title. And this is going to be equal to the post.title. So what our loop does currently is it will loop through all of the posts inside our post array. And for each post, it's going to save it into a variable called stored title. Now, some of your developer instincts should be tingling by now. As we mentioned, we should always start from const and then work upwards to let and var as needed. So let's go ahead and change that to const and change that to const. And you'll notice that we actually don't change the value of either of these inside the curly braces. These both work fine for our purposes. So now we have the requested title and each stored title inside our array. Now it's time to check for each post whether if the stored title matches the requested title. So we can use an if statement for that, and we check to see if stored title is equal to 3 equals the requested title. Then in that case, we're going to log match found. And now this is all the code that we need to loop through each of our posts, store each of the titles inside a constant called stored title, and then we check if the stored title matches with the requested title, and if so, we log match found. So let's go ahead and check it out. So once you resave our app.js, you might notice that our homepage is again devoid of any blog posts. Now, in future modules, we're going to figure out how to fix this, but in order to do that, we need to learn about databases, and that's not the focus of this module. So let's just work with it as it is for now. And let's head over to Compose and create a new post that again has the title of test and then some lorem ipsum as the content. So now we know that we have this post called test, and no matter how much we refresh, it's still saved currently in our server. Let's go ahead to posts/test, and I'm going to spell it exactly the same way in terms of capitalization as the title of my post. And once I hit enter, you can see in your console that we get match found. If I go ahead and add another post, and I write day 1, then you can see again we get match found. That's the solution to this challenge. If you struggled with this challenge, depending on which part you found difficult, I recommend re-reviewing the lessons that covered those aspects. There's a couple of things that might have tripped you up around here. One is using the for each to loop through our array, which we covered previously in challenge 14. Or it might be that you got tripped up by the express routing parameters, which we covered just before challenge 16. So either pause the video and re-explore those topics that you find difficult, or if this was a breeze, then continue on to the next challenge.